Hello, listeners, and welcome to another week on Chasm Converses. It's episode number 60, and this week we're heading over to the Netherlands, to Rotterdam, to talk with singer-songwriter Philine. Her newest single, Green, is a calming, mesmerizing, eye-opening track, and she goes through it with me and honestly locks me in with every word as she speaks about becoming one with nature and living her life in stories. She also tells me about her latest tour that she and her band went on supporting the German band Province in Munich and Hamburg to a mass of people. So, throw Green into your playlists and join us for the conversation. Let's get conversing. Chasm Converses. Philine, welcome to Chasm Converses.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Whereabouts are you joining me from today?
I'm at home and I live in Rotterdam in the Netherlands.
Wow,
I'm
that's
in my
so
living
cool.
room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow, that's sick. I love the guitars on the wall and stuff. It's very it looks very homely. It looks like a lot of your creativeness, I guess, flows in that room, possibly.
I must admit I'm dating a guitarist, so these are all from my girlfriend. But I
Ah,
am starting to learn how to play guitar a little bit. So I'm kind of using them as well at the moment.
that's absolutely fantastic. How do you enjoy living in the Netherlands? Have you been there your whole life?
Yeah, I've lived here ever since I was born. It's kind of it's a safe environment and everything is kind of familiar to me, and but I would love to travel a little bit more, and maybe I would definitely be open one day to maybe moving outside the Netherlands as well. But it just feels very safe and very small, and it's a small world.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds cool. You have to come down to Australia one day.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Definitely on my bucket list on the other side of the world. But yes, I would
Mm.
love to come there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how far the flight is. I know it's around about maybe 20-ish hours, I expect.
I think
But
so. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it might be worth it if beaches and very hot weather are your thing. But yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, the Netherlands is on my bucket list as well. Like even just seeing some of your really cool, your videos and your photos and that sort of thing. I did the scenery just looks awesome, and I'm really keen. Like you got the forest, everything's so like green over there. It looks like a really nice place to live.
Yeah, it is. I do live in a city in Rotterdam, and I must admit, I think Rotterdam is probably one of the ugliest cities in the Netherlands. So around me, I don't have a lot of nature, but one day I would love to, like, even if it's outside of the Netherlands, just love with a little bit more green around me, and like, yeah, I would love that.
Awesome. I would love this is a great segue into what I was going to say right now is that you've just released a new single called Green. So yeah,
Yeah, I have.
how flawless was that transition, right? No, but
Yeah, it was good.
it's an amazing song. It sounds so great, and it sounds very homegrown, like it comes from somewhere quite sort of close to you, maybe even from like a bit of a homely vibe. And you've been doing music
Mhm.
now for quite a while.
Yeah, true.
I'd love to launch into how you sort of got into music and what was your sort of your want to be a singer-songwriter.
I think music has always been around me ever since I was really little, and I've always kind of written my own songs. Even when I was really little, I would like take karaoke tapes from other songs and I would write my own music to it. And I think I started taking some piano lessons when I was about 9, and then I quit after 1 year because I just wanted to play my own chords and I didn't want to do anything from the book.
Mm.
But yeah, I think when I was about 11 or 12 years old, I think I started writing in English. So before that, it was just basically like children's songs that I wrote and like musicals I made. When I was like 11, 12, I did bilingual education also in high school. So then I spoke a lot more English, and then I started writing in English. And then when I was 16, I entered a songwriting competition
Hmm.
in the Netherlands. And I think I got into the last 25 or something. And that was
Wow.
really when I was like, okay, I can write songs when people give me an exercise, and then like with the pleasure, it worked. So I was like, okay, that kind of gave me the confirmation. Like I could do this if I need to, not just to express my feelings, but if I have to,
Yeah.
then I'm capable of doing it as well.
That's
So
so cool.
yeah, it was really nice. And I met a lot of other musicians as well. So kind of think that's when the ball kind of started to roll a little. And then I was 19 when I finished high school because I was very bad at it and I I had to stay a little longer there than I wanted to. But then when I
Yeah.
was finally done, I went straight into music school in Rotterdam and I studied vocals actually.
Oh, cool.
I kind of transferred it to songwriting like after a year, kind of because I've thought I need to get singing lessons first because the songwriting part, I thought I got it. I know what to do about it. I know
Mhm.
how to develop it. But I never had any singing lessons. So I thought, okay, this is a priority. But then after a year, I was like, nah, I'm not a singer. I wanna write songs. And I just kind of switched it back. Yeah. And then I think 2 years in music school, I started to release songs. Looking back, it was still very much in an experimental phase and still very
Mm.
much figuring out, still quite young. So I released two singles and then I did an EP
Yes, you did.
with school. And it was still like very, very experimenting for me and like starting to figure out what I wanted to say. Sometimes I would even make up stories when I wrote about them, and sometimes they were already kind of like true to my heart. And but I was just very much like in music school, so I was just experimenting a lot.
Now that sounds incredible. I love that you've gone through that whole scenario of, going into university to learn about vocals and then sort of progressing through there and then trying to, as you say, write your own songs and releasing a few, but they are kind of experimental kind of songs because you're sort of just finding your feet, as it were, in
Yeah,
songwriting and just seeing how it sort of fits together and all the rest of it. And
exactly.
you did write an EP. I think it was 2021, was it? It was somewhere else. Was that the
I think
first EP
so.
that you wrote? Wow, yeah. Is
Yeah.
that was that the sort of the experimental sort of phase when you sort of started to write your songs?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think songwriting wise, I already wrote for a couple of years, but it
Mm,
was the first time that I actually recorded songs, and so especially production wise, it was very much still searching what I wanted to do with it. And
mm.
but yeah, that was the first EP I wrote. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. And it's so good that you sort of have those songs to start with. And then I guess like from there you can kind of build into other songs and build into like new sort of things. It's almost like I had this thought today um about just bands in itself, like when you're involved in a band or you're involved with a group of people, or even if you're
Hmm.
just a singer-songwriter itself. And the first thing that you release, or the first kind of big thing that you release, is really kind of the experimental sort of phase because it's something that you're
Hmm.
just sort of you're doing together for the first time. So you're sort of just, you're feeling each other out and feeling how the songs come out, all the rest of it.
Hmm.
So when you do that first release, the most important release is then the one like after that, because that's when like you start to go into the more refinement and the more polished version of the songs that I guess you kind of all want to write together. And I think that
Yeah.
it also kind of works very similar in the same way for singer-songwriters, even in like for myself and even for you, when it comes to, your first couple of songs or whatever, they're more experimental and it's as much as you can go. And then as you sort of move on, you sort of you sort of figure out what you're doing and you figure out more things you want to throw into. So I guess when you did your second EP in 2023, like So Sick of Myself, that shows just so much growth in yourself as a songwriter and even as a recording musician as well, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the first EP was kind of a product of a lot of feedback from the people around me. I would ask anybody I knew to listen to my songs and give me feedback, and I would try to
Mm.
process everything.
Mhm.
And then with the So Sick of Myself EP, I was just like, I think I know what I want to do. I'm just going to do it together with my producer. I met a new producer and we clicked
Mhm.
straight away. He's called Luke van der Ginten and he's a Dutch
Fantastic.
producer from
Mhm.
Haarlem. And yeah, we just clicked right away and we were like, I think we know what direction we want to go into. And I only included a few people and I didn't
Mhm.
ask for a lot of feedback, just kept the circle very small. And
Mm.
we sometimes invited some songwriters in. And but that was it. And like our guitarists, because I really
Mm.
like to write together with guitarists.
Mm.
Um, but I wouldn't like send it around anymore. So I felt like it's more of a, yeah, I really went inside inwards and just listened to what we wanted and had a
Mm,
lot of fun while doing it. And I think that's definitely, when I compare those two EPs, the difference to me. Like one
mm.
is really me at the time, and the other one was kind of the people I was, yeah,
Yeah.
asking feedback. Yeah.
Definitely makes it a bit more inclusive as well with their opinions coming into
Yeah.
yours, so you can sort of branch out from that, which is what a team's all about. That's fantastic.
True.
I would
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you about, because I obviously have to research my guests before I get them on and all the rest of it. And there was I can't remember if it was on the website or if it was on the Spotify or something like that, but there was a tagline that was sort of like describing you as a chaotic songwriter. And I thought that was brilliant. I would love to know, like, what's like your kind of your creative process? So what are the things that go on in your head which then allow you to then create what it is that you create? In this instance, obviously songs, but then also, you've got your own visions of, like, music videos or visions in which you perceive the songs to be in. So like take me through your creative process.
I have I have a lot of different ways that I work. So it's not just like one thing I do, but the
Mm,
thing that's very constant about my songwriting process is that I always go to the studio together with Luke, with my producer.
mm,
And I have like 1,000 different notebooks where I just write random stuff, and I write a lot in my notes on my phone. And
hmm.
I think during like normal life, I very much live in stories. So
Right.
everything I experience, it automatically gets turned into stories and like subtext and like categories. So I'm
Wow.
always kind of like thinking in, yeah, like what chapter is this in my life, and what are the themes, and like, yeah, I think this is also my way of trying to organize the chaos a little bit, because
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a very chaotic person. Yeah, like classic ADHD, like all over the place, like learning to become a little bit more structured as I grow older.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely used to be very chaotic and very, yeah, a little irresponsible maybe. But yeah, as I'm growing older, the constant thing is I just have to go to the studio, and sometimes I bring like music I've been listening
Mm,
to kind of create a vibe. But usually it's just, okay, today I'm feeling this.
mm.
And sometimes I have an actual subject that I'm like, okay, this happened to me, I gotta write it out. And sometimes we just first create a vibe, and then it comes naturally, and I'm like, oh, the music is telling me that we are gonna go this direction. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
right.
yeah, that's kind of, I think, how it goes usually.
That's fantastic. No, I think that's a really cool way that you sort of throw things in there. I absolutely loved when you said you're living in stories in your head. That will definitely be the title of this episode, because that's a brilliant quote. Um Trying to figure out what sort of chapter you're in, as in like what sort of chapter in life you're in. Like that's just it's
Mm-hmm.
gee, it's like almost like philosophical in a way.
Thanks.
And it's yeah, it's so fascinating to think in that way. But even so, it's very relatable, I think, because like especially going through writing green, it's just like another step in that chapter. It's like the next chapter of like, your story, your book sort of thing, so to speak. And so I'd love to talk to you about the song because I obviously really enjoyed it. And
Thanks.
you released it obviously very recently.
Yeah.
Is it a very special song to you? Is there like some nice kind of reasons behind it? Would you like to share them with me?
Yeah, definitely. For me, green is kind of, I wrote it about like something personal that happened to me. I little over 1.5 years ago, I did my first psychedelic trip. I took some mushrooms,
All right.
and and I was in
Awesome.
the yeah, it was, yeah, I love it now. Like now I'm hooked. But it was the first time, and I was dating my, it wasn't my girlfriend yet then. We were only
Mm,
dating for like 3 weeks, and we went to this, yeah, this mice field in the middle of nowhere, and we went camping,
mm,
and we brewed some mushroom tea
mm.
beforehand, and we took it and we drank it. And she had already done it like a couple of times before.
All right, yep.
Yeah, she was pro already, and she
Teaching
was
you the
like,
ways.
exactly, good influence. And she was like, yeah, you could just set an intention and just whatever you want to experience. She told me that she used to have like a lot of insights when she did these trips. And I was really like, okay, I just want to focus on making a connection with nature because I see all these people around who are being so into nature, and I always feel like they're just putting on a show because I couldn't feel it. I was like,
Mm,
that must be a show because I was always like a very inside indoor kid, and I was
mm.
just a lot busy with just playing and creating, but never really wanted to play outside.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Um, and so during the trip, it was everything kind of started to overlap. So I felt a
Mm,
lot of love and a lot of fascinating feelings for the world, but everything just kind of fell into place. So it felt like the plans and my girlfriend, it felt like everything was kind of from the same source.
oh,
And
okay.
it was really cool and a very calm trip. It wasn't like very euphoric or anything, just very calm,
Mm.
very um I wouldn't say mild because the insights afterwards it was big, it was huge. And I really
Yeah.
feel like ever since that moment, I really feel like if I look at chapters, that was definitely a before and an after because
Yeah, right.
I really started to look at the world so differently because I really realized, okay, the way I look at it, like if I open my eyes and I see all the nature, I see all the trees, and I see the things in a positive way,
Mm.
then I get to experience it. But if I've never seen it before, then I wouldn't even know that it's there.
Yeah,
So
right.
that really kind of gave me a lot of power in the power of my perspective. And it
Mm.
really made it like easier to not judge other people because I always said, well, they just haven't seen it yet. They haven't.
Yeah.
And I was like, they just haven't done shrooms probably. Um, now
Yeah.
looking, I see that it's not as black and white anymore. But back then I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, they just haven't seen it yet. So how would I be able to judge them?
Oh
Um,
man, that's fantastic. I mean, it's almost like you're obviously through that you became almost like one with nature in that respect. Like, connecting, I guess, on like a much deeper level than I suppose you would have had in like, previous times. So like, yeah, I definitely
Definitely.
I love that that sort of opened the door. I mean, it's where everyone has, great sort of drug stories and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's something that not everybody obviously does it, but people do it plenty of all the time. And it's so great to be
Yeah.
able to share those stories in a real positive environment and a real positive mindset, especially when they do things like that. They open you to new
Mm.
experiences or open the door to a little bit of a world that was, I guess, always there, but that you hadn't really, put your feet in yet.
Yeah, exactly. And that I think that's really what I wanted to capture with Green because I just wanted a song that could remind me that it's always in there. It's always around me. I just have to look at it and it's always been there. It's not something you have to earn or something. It's just something you have to maybe focus on and pay your
Mm,
attention to. And then it's always going to be there. And then in the verse, it's just about the questions that I had during the trip afterwards. I really,
mm,
yeah, before the trip, I think I
mm,
was just very much focusing on like the trying to organize chaos and my struggles and my love life. I was very obsessed with
mm.
love. Still am though. Hasn't really changed. But
Yeah.
it did add definitely added an extra layer to like the existential part of life and like
Mm,
asking questions like why are we here? What is our purpose? And um yeah, like every it just got a lot of curiosity for the
mm,
world and like I ever since then I just can't stop wondering about the way animals perceive this planet. Like it kind of
That's
opened a
good.
new door and like it gave me a lot of curiosity and uh yeah, it I really if I listen to Green, I just like feel the calm and I feel like
Mm.
it's not that serious. It's just
Yeah.
also sometimes fun and games and
It's very
yeah.
mellow. Yeah, it's very mellow and just
Yeah.
like interesting. But no, I really do relate to that sort of stuff. I mean, even as I get older, I even find myself just asking like different questions than what I would have when I was younger. But even the same thing as you, like where it comes into like this is without the drugs, this is without the drugs. But like wondering about like the like how like the being on the planet. the way that animals interact with each other, the way that, there's just so much life. There's always like a balance. There's always like a good or a bad, or there's like an up or a down. Like there's always
Mm,
that sort of positive side, and there's always that like slightly negative side. But like there's always like that balance in the middle, and it's so crazy when you sort of look into that as well. Because even I've just started to
mm,
do that a lot too recently, and even like yeah, it's very troubling and it's strange because it's just something that you don't ever expect to have to deal with in life. Like when
mm.
you're younger
True.
and they're like, oh yeah, like can't wait to be an adult because you're like, yeah, whatever. But like the amount of things that you just start to question and think about when you're older that that's now in your mind, it's just crazy. You're like, man, I didn't think when I was this young that I was going to be thinking like when I'm older, like, oh man, like, is there any point to being here? Oh my God, I've got to worry about this. Like, oh my God, like the place that I'm
Mm,
in right now might not be the place that I'm in 20 years. That's just it's weird how that stuff as you get older starts to sort of like seep into like one another and you
yes,
start to
very
ask those
true.
questions. Have you had that sort of experience as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I think in around the period of green, it was especially a very positive experience because I
Mm,
felt so curious and I felt like there was just this whole new dimension of questions and like so then it was really positive. But like the last I think year it has also been very very challenging because without the questions it's also very um it's very clear and it's
mm,
very you just focus on like the yeah it's there's also it's been a really big gift to be
mm.
able to think about these things but it's also
Yeah.
been a big challenge because once you start to question everything and once you aren't feeling well or haven't slept well or are like in a more stressful or
Mm.
pressured situation then these things they get like really big questions and I start to question am I doing this right and
Yeah, yeah.
what is the point of it and like how can I prove that like the sense of realness yeah
Mm,
so yeah it has both sides it can be a very pleasant and curious experience but it can
mm.
also be very how do you say it delusionating like
Yeah, yeah. Like again with that like balance shift, like it can be a very positive
yeah
experience or it could be a very negative experience. Like you keep
it's
always coming
both
back to that counterbalance. It's so strange. I love this. We're going deep
yeah
today. We're going real deep today.
I love it
Absolutely, yeah. I'll shift slightly because I did mention at the start of the podcast that you put a lyric video out for Green, which was roaming around amongst the green, as it were.
yeah
Whereabouts
true
was that like around where you kind of live, or was that somewhere like around where you are kind of based? Because it was a beautiful green scenery.
it was I went there a week before we filmed it, and I just went there with the family of my girlfriend.
Mm,
Um, and I was like, we just got to do it here because it's so vibey and it's so you had like this very almost neon green moss, and I was like, we just got to
mm,
go there because it just felt so good. And I think I visited it before a couple of I actually the first single I released, Gone,
mm. Yeah.
that artwork has been shot there as well.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I remembered that later. So I'd been there before, but it wasn't really near where I grew up. But it's also everything in Holland is kind of nearby, so it was like yeah, an hour drive. Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, I can see that now. I always check. I always look stuff up. I'm awesome at this. But yeah, no, I can see. I can definitely see the similarities in the place, and that was around 2020 period as well. So that would have been a very
Yeah,
the whole world was in the shit right there. But like, yeah,
exactly.
wow, that must have been like crazy doing a song then. Like that was your first one as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was so weird. I think I released it a week after we went into lockdown. So
Oh
it
right,
was
okay.
very strange. Yeah.
Damn, how was
That's a weird
because
time.
obviously we're both on other sides of the world at the moment, but like how was I guess like lockdown for you guys over there? Like were you sort of inside and like taken away from everyone for like a long period of time? Were you coming in? Were you going out? Like how sort of was it for you?
I think we've had like three waves. So we first had the
Mm,
lockdown where everybody was really scared and like very
mm,
strict with the rules. And then with the second wave, at least the people I had around me were a bit more like, okay,
mm.
more resistant to it, bit more
Yeah.
skeptical. So, and
Okay.
then the third wave, we were also just, yeah, I think we were just kind of breaking the rules a little bit. And,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we all were
So,
breaking the
yeah,
rules a little bit. Yeah. Driving out to get things we weren't supposed to go and get, but you know.
yeah. For me, the lockdown was just actually quite a nice time to just go experiment things. And within the lockdown, yeah, a lot of personal things happened to me that I was like,
Mm.
well, yeah, it kind of helped me as well to kind of rediscover myself. And
Mm.
yeah,
I think
wasn't all
that
bad.
I think yeah, no, definitely not. I think a lot of people can really relate to that as well because you know you
Yeah,
have a chance to sort of be on your own or be inside for a long period of time, and it's kind of like you know after a while there's not a lot to do. So you know if you
hmm,
do have a lot of downtime to start thinking and start questioning things and start thinking of what you want to do next or what's coming up and all the rest of it.
yeah,
So no, I think for a lot of people it was similar. I mean, I think in many different ways. I think half of us just started drinking the whole time because we didn't know what else to do. But then after a while,
yeah,
that's when the questions started coming back in. It's like, oh man, like what am I doing with my life? It's like, oh, maybe we should start doing this. But like, yeah, it was a
yeah,
very strange time. But I do like that it gave you a bit of a like an insight to, you know, question different things about yourself and obviously start writing music and going on the path that you
yeah,
are now.
definitely.
And I love that even more recently, you were just on tour, right?
Yeah,
That
in
would have been
Germany.
insane. Can you take me through that? Because I
Oh,
saw some sort of a video of you performing to a room, and I don't know how many people were in there, but it was
yeah,
huge,
so
like
much.
massive. How
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. We got to open for the band called Province in
Province,
Germany,
yep.
and they're really big there. I didn't even know them before because they're not really big in Holland as their music is in German.
Hmm.
But we got an email from them and they shared one of my songs before on Instagram.
Mm.
And I was when that happened, I was also like, whoa, okay. This Instagram account has a lot of followers and they're a band, and I
Mm.
have no clue how they got to my music. But then a few weeks later, they emailed me and they were like, yeah, we checked out your music and we would love it if you could open for us.
Oh,
And we were
wow.
like, this is so random, still really not realizing how big of a chance it would be. But we were like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. It's Germany. Let's go. We've heard German audience is like 10 times better than Dutch audience. So we were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it.
Wow.
And then yeah, then we even saw that they had another Feline and two Paulas. So we were like, maybe it was some kind of joke that they already had the
Yeah.
other Feline and they were just. So I asked them and they were like, no, it's just coincidence.
Damn. Did you have like a band already formed, or did you have to kind of like call
Yeah.
people in to like come and help you out with this with the
No,
performance?
no, no. We had a band. We've been playing together for quite a while, but we did have to like kind of, we could only go with four on stage.
Mm, okay.
And my band it was six back then, it's five now.
Okay.
So we kind of had to, yeah, leave a few people behind, sadly.
Oh, damn.
Um, but yeah, in this experience, it definitely has been one of the craziest, most amazing experiences on stage. Definitely the biggest crowds we've ever played for, but also
Mm,
the sweetest crowds ever because they were so engaged and so. In Holland, you're kind of used to. I've done a lot of support shows, and you're kind of used to being like, yeah, you're used to the chatter and like being
mm.
as if you're standing in a hallway kind of vibe.
Oh, okay.
Um, and in Germany, everyone was like, I felt for a second, I felt like I was the main act because they were so into it and they were
Mm.
like waving. And I could see that a lot of the people in the front row had checked some of my songs already and they were like singing along. And I was like,
Oh,
oh my God,
wow.
this is crazy. And yeah, we had four shows, and after the third show, I was together with my band, and I was like, before the tour, I was like, we're gonna have to bluff it because I mean, I know we've been working on it for quite a while, but this is bigger than we've done, so we're gonna have to kind of bluff it.
Mm.
And after the third show, I was like, you know what, we got this. If
Yeah.
this is gonna be what we're gonna do, then I really felt the connection with the crowd, and I really felt like it was yeah a two-way streak. Like
Mm.
I gave a lot, but I felt them giving a lot too, and I felt this exchange of good vibes and energy, and I was like, I feel like I can handle the responsibility of a crowd like that, and I want to. So it was
Wow.
such a positive experience. Yeah, it was really really crazy.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
cool.
I love that you're able to have that real connectivity with the audience and obviously with the bands and even with Province. That, I mean, I think one of
Yeah,
the greatest things about what you've just said is that like you got asked by them. Like, you didn't have to email them or join a competition to maybe be the band that opened for them.
yeah,
Like they actually sussed you out and asked you to support
yeah.
them. Like that is, in my opinion, that's
Crazy.
huge. And I think
Such a
that's
compliment.
yeah. And I think that's one of those really cool things in music that it only really happens. I mean, it happens in obviously a few industries, but in music especially, you can just be doing absolutely nothing. And then out of the blue, something will just happen that will just click or change just everything like that you've done up to
True.
that point. And I feel like this was like that moment for you.
Definitely. We also really, I think we heard it like 3 months ago. And when we heard it, we were like, okay, then we got to make sure that we're going to release Green the week
Mm,
before. So we really had to, and they wanted to have the whole EP finished
mm.
before releasing it. So we were like, okay, we're just going to use this opportunity and we're going to use it as a way to, yeah, clean our agendas and make this a priority. And we're just going to go to the studio because the songs were, they had been written for quite some time.
Right.
But we still had to record a lot of live instruments.
Mm,
So yeah, it really felt like a gift because I felt like I'd been waiting quite some time with these songs, and they were like, I really wanted to release them, and then this
hmm.
opportunity came along, and then we just signed with the label, and they were like,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
this is just this is gonna be a start. We're gonna use this opportunity, and then yeah, it all kind of yeah fell together. Really, really big gift.
That's
So great.
fantastic. Did you guys, when you did play with them, did you go to different venues in Germany or did you mainly just go to the same one the whole time? Or did you get to kind of like, go on the bus or go in a van or a car all together and get that sort of on the road tour vibe going?
Yeah, we rented a van
Oh, nice.
and we played 4 shows in 3 different places, but
Oh,
the third place was Munich and the fourth place was Hamburg, and there's
oh,
at least 8 hours drive between it. So
wow. Okay.
it really was a road trip. Yeah. And yeah, it was so much fun. I was like, yeah, I really want to be on tour more often. It's so much fun and also very
Mm.
bonding with the band and with the tour manager and the sound tech that we brought along. It was yeah, really
No.
felt like very bonding.
Yeah, it's almost like you become one sort of big family for a little bit. And then you never know,
Yeah,
like as I said, like, if you keep going the way that you guys are going, releasing songs and putting stuff out, things like this pop up. So you never know. You may be going on tour like with another band in no time, or you may try and put your own one together at some point. And then that's another whole experience altogether, trying to put your own tour together. And then like,
yeah.
finding places to go and venues to play at.
Mm.
Have you played many venues in your own place?
A little. We did like in Holland you have Popronde and you go to like all the crappy bars in throughout the Netherlands and you play for
Yeah.
like 3 people and
Yeah.
so we did that and we played a lot with that.
Mm.
And we're actually gonna go on tour in October in the Netherlands. I haven't
Oh.
announced it yet, but
Oh.
I'm going to very soon, so I might as
Yes,
well
do.
drop it already.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's going to be really fun. I think we're also maybe going to do a few shows in Belgium as well. Really want to go back to Germany. So we're kind of talking with a few people in their venues as
Hmm.
well. But yeah, I up until the German tour, there's just always been like big periods of time in between
Mm.
the performances that we did. So I never really felt like we really got into this
Like a rhythm.
exactly. So I really
Mm.
think that the tour is going to be the start of that. So very
That's awesome.
excited.
This
Yeah,
has been
so
absolutely
excited.
fantastic. Yeah, that's it. Like, this has been so awesome to talk to you about all this stuff, Feline. I feel like the door has basically been kicked open for you in the last few months just from this conversation that we've had. And I think that you're just going to step through that door with everything that you have. And you're going to make the absolute most of it. And it's going to give you a lot of, I think the reward that, so, you've been seeking and that you've been putting into your craft. So it's been so wonderful to talk to you about yourself and everything that we've covered, especially your newest song, Green. It's such a great track. To all of my listeners, please stream Green and follow Philine and her music journey, of course. Thank you again for joining me. I wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. I wish you all the best in the rest of your I've got this part all wrong. This will be editing. I wish you all the best in the rest of your musical journey, and I hope one day we will cross paths.
Yeah, definitely. I really like talking to you. Could have done it for another hour. It was
great. Yes, that is the art of podcasting. Thank you so much for tuning in to the episode this week. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Philine and myself. Go check out her newest single, Green. Give her a follow on the socials and keep up to date with everything that she has going on. There are links in the description of this episode where you can find all of Philine's music, videos, and info on upcoming shows and the tour. As for myself, follow me on Instagram or YouTube at This Is Chasm, where you can find reels from my podcast episodes, extended clips, and you can also keep up with the podcast on Spotify, as well as the Chasm Converses playlist, which features all the intro songs from all my guests thus far, and Green has recently been added. So give it a follow, a listen, support the podcast and the artists, and leave a rating and or review for the show wherever you listen to your podcasts, and I'll see you next week for a new episode with a new guest here on Chasm Converses.